welcome to this episode of The Way of Things. Today we're going to discuss hiking technology, I guess. And of course, hiking technology goes back a long ways, probably starting with the sandal, the first sandal, and incrementally in that technology to the modern hiking shoe. But today we're going to discuss something that is a game changer, a quantum leap, and that is basically Google Earth. It really changes the game for somebody trying to hike in the desert, or I guess anywhere, as far as the knowledge and the experience that you can have. In the old days, I can remember I used to get topo maps, and they would have, of course, the topographical representation with lines, and then sometimes they would have a splotch of green or something to kind of indicate vegetation, and then they have various symbols for springs and ruins of buildings and so forth, and of course roads and trails and that kind of thing. However, with satellite imagery, the difference is tremendously different. You can see whether the landscape is lava rock or granite or limestone. You can see the difference, how a spring is a large spring or a big, very small spring. There's all kinds of things that the satellite image gives you that just simply isn't there on the old topo maps. One of the things that, of course, I talk about in one of my videos is the difference between the north slope and the south slope environment. And this is something you can explore with Google Earth and actually see the difference, and not just the difference in vegetation, but the difference in erosion and soil type that has accumulated over the eons, with the north slope and the south slope being different. Another lesson that you can learn that I have a video on is what I call a confluent, where two different washes come together and form a type of oasis in the desert. And it explains it more in detail. But with Google Earth, you can actually go from one confluent to another and see what's happening. A steep one, a shallow one that's a long ways from the mountain range, one that's very close, and really get to know this process in a way that the old maps would never really give you. There's other things that you can look at as well and use, and one of the things you can do is custom maps, and that is to say you can go into the field with 2 or 3 pieces of paper that you've printed, so that you have maybe different scales actually in your hand with the vegetation and with the trails, rocks, all that kind of stuff at whatever scale you're traveling. You can have a map, for instance, for a scale that you're driving, so you want to drive to a certain canyon. So you'd have a scale printed out on that, a map of that scale, showing the paved road and then the dirt road and so forth. And then you could have another map that's a map maybe of a spring or a particular canyon that's tailored for the hike that you're going to take. And this kind of knowledge is really something that it's very powerful. It really gets you into an understanding of the environment. This knowledge gives you the ability to fly over the environment. It's almost a form of shape-shifting because you're allowed to fly and back and forth and across, and really even fly higher than any bird can ever fly. You can fly back up to the level where you can see the mountain range or the canyon in its context of the overall geology of something on a scale of hundreds of miles, and then zoom right in to something that a sparrow would see. And this ability gives you the kind of knowledge that you used to have to go out and fly in an airplane to see. And I used to do that. I'd rent a plane and pilot and fly over an area and then go in and hike it. Sometimes I would hike an area, fly it, and then continue hiking in it. So I had some on-the-ground knowledge of the area before I flew. And you can do the same thing with Google Earth. It's one of the ways you can utilize it is not only utilize it before you go in a hike, but also afterwards. Take a look at it after you've hiked an area, because then you'll have a very close, intimate ground knowledge that you can kind of overlay on the satellite photo. And that can tell you things like you might be there in the winter or the summer, and you don't know when that photo was taken, the satellite photo, but it gives you some idea of the seasonality, the last rain, all these kind of things. So you want to do that. You want to look at this terrain before and after you've hiked it. And this will give you that kind of knowledge that is really only obtainable in this day and age. The ancient people who often knew the land very deeply, oftentimes didn't know or have that kind of knowledge of the land 40, 50 miles away. It would have been a strange land that they had little understanding or knowledge of. Whereas today we can go in and use this technology and compound our knowledge of the land in a way that's just simply wonderful. So the message here is to use this technology and use it both in printed form, use it in your home, and also use it before and after you've done these hikes. And I think you'll find that it's a tool that's a paradigm shift. It really changes the experience on all levels and regardless of what your particular interest is. So with that, I thank you and have a good day.